We often divide the world into two separate categories. On one side, we place science, the world of tools and data. On the other side, we place spirituality, the world of the mind and faith. It's easy to assume that these two paths never cross, but the scholars of ancient India saw things differently. For them, searching for spiritual truth was the reason they needed to be scientists. These massive stone instruments were used to track the exact movements of the stars. They believed the universe works according to predictable, mathematical rules, meaning that observing the sky was treated with the same rigor as any laboratory experiment today. Here is an ancient palm leaf manuscript. While these scholars preserved sacred songs through memory, they also wrote down thousands of pages of technical data. They recorded surgical methods, building measurements, and complex math with the same care they gave to their philosophy. In this worldview, the laboratory and the temple were identical. Mastering the physical world was simply the best way to understand the order of the universe. This search for order led to a breakthrough in how we count. Ancient Greek thinkers relied on physical shapes for their math, so the idea of nothing was difficult for them to accept. But Indian philosophers already had a word for a spiritual void, Shunya. Notice the grid in this diagram. Because Indian society was already comfortable with the idea of a void, mathematicians could leave a functioning empty space in their columns. This let them treat nothing as a real, usable value in their equations. In the 7th century, a mathematician named Brahmagupta wrote the rules for how this space works. Watch the numbers. He showed that if you subtract a number from itself, you reach 0. If you multiply a number by 0, the entire quantity collapses to 0. He turned a philosophical idea into a logical tool. By giving a symbol to this void, these scholars provided a way to handle massive numbers and complex cycles, creating a system that would eventually reach almost every corner of the globe. This same logic was applied to the human body. In the 6th century BCE, a physician named Sushruta argued that surgery should be taught through direct observation. He defied the customs of his time to dissect bodies, mapping out how muscles and bones actually fit together. He knew that theory wasn't enough, so he built training models for his students. They practiced making incisions on watermelons and learned to sew wounds by suturing leather bags filled with water, long before they ever worked on a patient. You can see how Sushruta looked to nature for his designs. He studied the mechanics of a lion's jaw and a heron's beak, then used those same biological principles to create over 120 specialized tools, including forceps designed for maximum grip and precision. This schematic shows his most famous technique, nose reconstruction. He developed a way to harvest a flap of living skin from a patient's own cheek and graft it onto a damaged area to restore the tissue. Sushruta's work shows that ancient Indian medicine approached the human body as a logical, repairable framework rather than an untouchable mystery. This is the Iron Pillar of Delhi. It's over 1,600 years old and has been standing in the open air through monsoons and intense heat for centuries. Yet look at the metal. It has a pristine surface that refuses to rust. This wasn't a lucky accident. It was the result of a technique called forge welding, where ancient craftsmen heated and hammered lumps of iron together by hand until they formed a single massive shaft. Modern iron making uses limestone to pull phosphorus out of the metal, but these ancient metalworkers purposefully left the phosphorus in. They understood that the right chemical balance would make the pillar last. Watch this microscopic cross-section. When the iron is exposed to the air, the phosphorus reacts to create an impenetrable shield that seals the surface. This layer is so thin and strong that it permanently protects the iron underneath from corroding. The pillar stands as physical evidence of a civilization that mastered the way heat and chemicals changed the nature of metal, long before the arrival of modern factories. Why did this ancient culture push so hard to understand math, surgery, and chemicals? They saw the world as a single, connected system. To them, a mathematical error, a structural flaw in a building, and a physical illness were all signs that something was out of balance with the natural laws of the universe. An ancient physician setting a broken bone focused on the patient's mind and vital energies alongside the physical injury, treating the whole person as an interconnected system. In this culture, practicing precise science was seen as a way to restore harmony to the world. Today, every computer on Earth runs on zeros and ones, a digital language that relies on the symbol for nothing, created by those ancient scholars. When you see a surgical team in blue scrubs working in a modern hospital, you are seeing a method of treating the body that began with Sushruta's early observations. The technology we use every day relies on a way of thinking that refused to separate the mind from the spirit. It reminds us that real progress happens when we use both our tools and our philosophy to understand the universe around us.